Hello, my name is Edward Lopes, and my ultimate goal after completing my education is to play a pivotal role in the creation of policies and methods that foster greater development of affordable housing, especially in New York City. I grew up in New York, and throughout my life, I watched the cost of housing in the state and across the country fluctuate. However, the cost of housing has risen to a level that has made it difficult for people to be able to afford or obtain residences. Lower income earners have usually encountered the most difficulty with respect to obtaining or affording residences. I believe that everyone should be able to access safe, secure, and stable housing. So I decided to research the matter further. Through my personal research, I have found that 1 million out of 8.5 million New York City residents are struggling to or unable to afford quality housing. One organization that I found kept coming up is MFY Legal Services. So thanks in part to the Tow Policy Advocacy Fellowship, I obtained a position with MFY in their three-quarter housing project to learn more about the housing and policy issues plaguing low-income residents in New York City. MFY's primary objective is to achieve social justice by prioritizing the needs of people who are low-income, disenfranchised, or disabled by providing direct civil legal assistance, conducting community education, and building partnerships, engaging in policy advocacy, and bringing impact litigation. One of MFY's projects is the Three-Quarter House Project, which generally addresses issues with tenants' rights and the development and administration of relevant policies. As a Tow Policy Advocacy Fellow with MFY Legal Services, I work with the Three-Quarter House Project. My responsibilities in the position have been to research, document, organize, and process information on the three-quarter housing and residential treatment facilities, conduct tenant interviews, maintain the database, and speak with residents and legislators at rallies and events. In my role, I got to see the scale and number of individuals who were affected by affordable housing and the issues that exist in the system. In one interaction, I experienced an individual who lived in three-quarter housing and supportive housing. This individual had many issues in this residence. He was part of a program that required his treatment to be facilitated through the housing process. And when he completed his treatment, he was removed from the facility and needed to find another place to go. This man would stop receiving funding from the government and have to, on his own, afford rent and other bills in order to survive. However, in his housing structure, he lived with 4 to 5 men, bedbugs, vermin, and also had unscrupulous practices placed upon him by the landlord and owner of the building within which he lived. But the truly sad part is that this man could barely afford to live in this terrible situation, and he had nowhere else to go. Essentially, this man was fighting to live in housing that he could barely afford to leave or tolerate. In the time that I have worked for MFY, the organization has navigated the legislative process and has passed several bills. One bill in particular that MFY helped to pass through legislation was a bill that required all shelters to offer the recipients of their services information relevant to their stay or their residency in that facility. Another bill required the city's task force on three-quarter housing to publish its report and its findings to the public. Another bill prohibited the HPD from setting a time limit on applications for emergency relocation of those displaced by city vacate orders. Another bill made it illegal for landlords to force tenants to attend medical treatment or treatment facilities of their choosing, or to force them as a requirement to go to these treatments with the risk of, if they do not go, being removed from the housing altogether. And lastly, a bill was passed thanks to the efforts of MFY that required the HPD to accept alternative forms of identification. Now, when I first heard about this bill, I was unsure about why it was so important until I realized that a lot of the residents in these facilities lack personal information and personal identification, such as driver's license, credit cards, bank accounts, and also, in many cases, personal addresses and residences. I watched MFY engage with the New York City legislative body and also legislators, and learned information on a number of housing processes. I also realized that legislators are more accessible than many New Yorkers think, especially more accessible than I thought. At one point, I spoke with several legislators about issues pertaining to three-quarter residents and also residential treatment facilities. I even ran into a legislator around my area and another legislator around the city. And it was very nice to feel like these legislators were within reach and actually cared about the situations that the people in three-quarter housing and the people in affordable housing are going through. I realized that MFY did not just pursue legal action. They did ground-up research by speaking with legislators, community organizations, the residents themselves, and also putting together strategies that incorporated all parties involved. And this process was crucial to obtain a balanced perspective. From my experience with MFY, I have found that a holistic approach to policy development is necessary in order to resolve issues. Coordination among the various parties involved is crucial to maintain a balanced perspective. I have gained a richer understanding of the issues that NYC residents face with regards to affordable and supportive housing. I have learned that every complex problem that involves public policy, administration, and advocacy requires a holistic approach. I understand that a policy advocate cannot engage while maintaining misconceptions. At MFY, I witnessed a practice gathering of all stakeholders to engage in a collaborative and listening process to determine solutions. I am grateful for this opportunity to work with MFY Legal Services. Thank you.